a six-time All-Star. He hit 54 home runs in 1 year, which almost broke Hack Wilson's National League record back in the 40s.
That's when home runs were home runs.
Exactly. When if you hit 40, it was achieving something. This guy led the league in homers 7 straight years in the National League. He led baseball in homers 6 straight years. Then he went into a successful broadcasting career with the Pirates. Ralph Kiner. How you doing, Ralph?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Not with the Pirates, with the Mets, so broadcasting.
The Mets, where are they located again?
They're located in New York, and I've been with them 50 years.
Casey Stengel still the manager there?
I wish he were. He was great to be around and great to hear and talk about all the things he knew about it. He was a very, very articulate man, and he was the whole thing about him, the double talk and what have you, was all an act, and he was really a good actor. He was very astute, and the players that played for him found that out when they saw him manage a ball game.
Now, you've saw the Mets from the depths of despair to World Series championships to now what they've become. They're getting closer to the 62 Mets as we speak. What was it like seeing that franchise rise?
Well, of course, I think it was one of the great events in baseball history when they went from a expansion club in 1962, and in a short time before they had free agency, they were able to put together a World Championship team in 1969, and that was one of the great thrills of my life. And outside of baseball was broadcasting baseball games and being a part of the 69 Mets. Of course, things have changed, and we certainly have we had quite a few ups and downs.
Ron Santo, who just passed away within the last 6 months, hated going to Shea Stadium, hated the Mets the day he died. What caused that animosity?
Well, I think it was very, very normal for a player like Santo, who was an exuberant type guy, and certainly was a great part of baseball for the Cubs all those years I played there. A real outstanding third baseman, and it was a shame he didn't make the Hall of Fame, but I guess sometimes things don't work the way they should.
Do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I do. There's no question about it. He was the type of player that exuded baseball, and I think that's what we all should appreciate, having the chance to play a game like baseball that is such a superb game and tactical and what have you, if you understand it. And I think the majority of people in the United States do understand it. It's a hard game to explain to someone who doesn't know a thing about baseball.
Now, you did spend a little time at Wrigley Field playing for the Cubs. What was that like? Well,
we didn't have good teams in those days and didn't draw great crowds, but I love Chicago. It was a great place to be, and I enjoyed being there for the short time I was there. And, of course, I played there my first year in the Major Leagues in 1946, and in those days it was a tough ballpark to hit in. And the reason for that was the fact that they had the people sit in the center field bleachers, and in the summertime with white shirts and a white baseball, it was extremely difficult to find the baseball when you're a hitter. It was not an easy park to play in when it was that way. Of course, it became easier when they did black out that center field area, and I was a part of that. I was the player representative for the National League in those years, and the players came to me and wanted me to try and influence the Cub management to take out the people that were sitting there and make it somewhat difficult to do, because they didn't want to even give up those good seats. But it didn't draw that well then. They are now, and it's one of the great franchises of all time.
When you were with the Pirates, I see that Honus Wagner was part of the team back then, involved with it. What was it like knowing that you met Honus Wagner, one of the greatest players of all time, and then you've also met A-Rod, one of the greatest players of all time? I mean, you've spanned 80 years of baseball.
I sure do. I'm Well, not quite 80 years, but I'm only 88 right now. But fortunately, I still broadcast. I don't do all the games. I do quite a few games of the Mets, and to be a part of a great game like baseball, I've already been a very fortunate person.
Now, are there a lot of people out there that remember that once upon a time you did play baseball, that you are a Hall of Famer, and that you were the premier home run hitter of your era?
Well, I think that there are quite a few people that I see and talk to, mainly because my exposure has continued after I played baseball when I got into broadcasting. When I quit playing, I had a bad back. I only played 10 years, and of course, in those 10 years, I was able to accumulate, I had the most home runs of any player for 10 years until Pujols came around and broke all my records. But it's recognizable in New York, especially, of my playing, being able to play, and being a part of the Mets for all those 50 years.
Do you ever think, if it hadn't been for my back, I might have been the guy to break Babe Ruth's total record for a career?
Well, of course, the one thing about Babe Ruth that no one ever puts into to their columns or to their announcing or to their knowledge of baseball is that Babe Ruth was one of the great pitchers of all time when he was with the Boston Red Sox. He had all the records for 5 years that he played there. And when I was on the pace to maybe outstanding chance to break into the record books by beating his record, I got a chance to be a part of that, and it's been a great career for me. I really enjoyed it, and of course I love baseball, as you can tell. It's just a wonderful game and a wonderful way to make a living.
Are you kind of upset that these records are getting tainted by all these people who use steroids over the last 2 decades?
You said the magic word. I think that the steroids era should be recognized and be talked about and put in the record books. The players have broke those records that were up there forever, and and baseball is a game of records. It was really bad for baseball, and of course, you really have to have a knowledge of baseball to know that they were accomplished under different circumstances that were illegal, and it is not recognized that way, and I really am upset about that, yes.
Yeah, because, once upon a time, 500 career home runs was an astonishing number, 50 home runs in a season, similar, and then the 90s came along, and it was like middle infielders were hitting 50 home runs.
Well, the game has changed. There's no question about that. And I really, in the record books, I think they have put it in eras. The eras of steroids, that should be acknowledged in the record books because players broke records that they never thought of doing. And with players, with the aid of an outside element, were able to do those things, it changed the game considerably and should be written in the history of baseball in the record books.
But Gaylord Perry said they were cheating back in his day. He was corking bats for people.
I think there were all kinds of things that are going to be done because it's been done because of television. And television brought big money into baseball, and that changed the game too. And of course, I never made the money. One time I was the highest paid player in the National League, and I made $80,000 a year then, and it was because of my home runs. And of course, the year that I came close to Hack Wilson's record, which was 56 home runs in 1930, I had a chance to break that. As a matter of fact, I hit one home run that was rained out, and I would have had 55 the year at the 54.
Who paid you the $80,000? Was that Bing Crosby when he owned the Pirates?
He owned a part of the Pirates, and he was really a baseball enthusiast. It was a great part of the game, and I just read something in the record book today that Gary Cooper also owned a part of the team. Bob Hope owned part of the Cleveland Indians, and of course Bing Crosby a part of of the Pirates, and Gary Cooper had a part of baseball with the Dodgers.
Speaking of the Dodgers, how mind-boggling is it that the Los Angeles Dodgers are having money problems nowadays?
Well, the money problems are created by the owner. McCourt has been the guy that spent money, thousands of dollars, on outside activities and strange-looking things, and I think it changes. But baseball has changed right with the times. The world has changed too. In the years that I've been around.
You must have loved when Bing Crosby was part owner of the Pirates because you got to meet all these celebrities. I saw a picture of you with Liz Taylor.
Well, the Bing Crosby's the one that said, "How would you like to go out with Liz Taylor?" And I said, "Are you?"
How long did it take you to answer that question?
I would like to go out and be able to date her, and of course I did get that advantage out, and it was all through Bing. And he was a wonderful guy to be around, and I played a lot of golf with him, and it was just a great part of our history. He was the biggest movie star of all time at one time, and of course nowadays they have a different kind of movie star. It's not a Bing Crosby that had a great voice and was a great actor. And Bob Hope also involved in baseball because he too was a big baseball fan.
So who was the better golfer, you or Bing?
Well, Bing Crosby was a club champion, I would say, of maybe 4 or 5, 6 clubs, something like that. And he played mainly out of Lakeside and Burbank, California, which is a part of L.A. And that was the thing about his participation. It really it made baseball even a stronger move. And now, of course, baseball coming to L.A. I was raised in Alhambra, California, which is right outside of L.A. And of course, I was very fortunate to meet Bing, and then I got to meet all the people that we look forward to admiring and what have you. So I've had a real exposure to a wonderful life.
Yeah, you and Bing and Bob Hope could have made a On the Road to Cooperstown movie.
I played a lot of golf with Bob Hope too. I lived in the Palm Springs for a long time, and that's where I got to be a partner of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby and Randall Scott, and you can name all those great players great actors that became good golfers and good players. And Bob Hope was not in the class of golf that Bing was. Bing was an outstanding golfer. And one time he had the only hole-in-one at Pebble Beach on the 16th hole of Cypress. And for a long time that said until someone, of course, came along. And again, all sports have changed. So the basketball has changed, and they run with the ball, and they're all over the place. And of course, with that, popularity has expanded baseball and golf and all the other sports.
Is there a celebrity that you met that you'll never forget, that you're in awe of?
Well, yeah, there's no question about Bing. Bing was he was a mercurial type person. At times he would be moody and what have you, but he was always a big baseball fan and a great part of our lives through the movies.
But he couldn't watch the games. He got too nervous, and you guys got to give him credit because they found a tape in his wine cellar of the famous, I think, 1960 World Series, and they just released it last year.
He was too nervous. That's a true story, and the thing about that was that he was. I'll tell you a story about him. I had a home run at Forbes Field. It was one of the days he was in the ballpark, and our announcer at that time was a man named Rosie Rosewell, who was one of the original announcers of baseball games. And Rosie did the play-by-play, and he had a unique way of broadcasting a home run. He would say, "Open the window, Aunt Mitty," and then they would have an assistant drop a pane of glass, glass like you have in windows, and make it sound like he never got the window open, and it was Aunt Mitty's home run. And he was Bing Crosby was broadcasting with Rosie, and I hit this home run. And he grabbed the microphone away from Bing, which was, I'm sure, the only time Bing Crosby ever had a microphone taken away from him.
Can we get your famous home run call?
Open the window, Aunt Minnie, and she never made it with a pane of glass breaking in the background, and it was well recognized in Pittsburgh, but nobody else knew what he was talking about.
Can we have the Ralph Heiner home run call? David Spada just hits one out of the park.
Well, I would say there's a drive deep to the outfield, and it's gone, goodbye. That was my home run call. Of course, when you're an announcer, you work on your home run call, because that's the biggest thrill in the game of baseball, the home run that wins the ball game and everything else like that. But it was fun to do, and I was very fortunate to be picked by the Mets when they started in 1962. And George Weiss was the man that hired me, and he was, of course, the big man for the Yankees for years, and then got fired by the Yankees, and then came over to the Mets, and he hired me, and they hired Casey Stengel, and of course Stengel was also a big part.
Yeah, they stole you from the White Sox.
That's true. I did the White Sox games with Bob Elson, and I learned a lot from Bob. He was a character. He was. They called him the commander, and of course he was the commander in World War II, and that was his nickname. And he was, well, he's in the Hall of Fame of broadcasting, so you know how good he was.
We had Brickhouse, him, Harry Carey.
And Brickhouse was also a very good man. I really enjoyed knowing him and being around him when he did all the telecasts for the White Sox and the Chicago Cubs.
But he never spent any money. He was very tight.
You got that right. And listen, he was tight. He stood the same Bob Elson.
Bob?
He didn't know what money was it. He never picked up a check in his life. And he was on the air. He'd say he would talk about a restaurant, and then have free food for the rest of his life from then on.
You never did that, though.
I'm sorry?
You never did that.
No, I didn't do it that way. I really couldn't do that. I mean, you have to be a personality that thinks that way.
What about
and
Harry?
Of course, they didn't make any money in those days. You know, the announcers didn't make the money they're making now.
No, not ESPN changed everything. We got Chris Berman, you got the Joe Morgans. It's incredible.
Yeah, and like managers never made much money at all. In fact, a lot of the managers in the old days were playing managers, because that saved the roster spot for another ball player.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We got to get to our next guest, Billy Pierce. I know you know him very well.
Oh, yeah, what a pitcher he was. He was, and also a wonderful guy.
Thank you very much, Ralph. It was a pleasure talking to you.
You're welcome, and hope to talk to you again. Bye now.
Thank you.